Hello everyone, my name is J. Daniel Woodstock. This is my buddy Breeze here, and welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be about the 5 steps to making your very own board game. Now, as some of you may have known, I'm in the process of making and developing my own board game, so a lot of these steps are going to be what I have already gone through, and I'm excited to share them with you. Now, let's get to it. Step number 1, develop a concept. When I was first developing Terraform, I had a job that let me drive out into the middle of nowhere, a beautiful place called the Barton Ranch. Now that was 2 hours on a dirt road that I drove at least twice a week. That allowed me to have a lot of time to just sit there and think about what I was looking at. Now, when this concept first reached my brain, the main thing I wanted was for the player to be able to manipulate the board as they went through it. Now, as I stared at these beautiful landscapes passing me by, I thought, why not have them change the landscapes around them to help them move throughout the board? This idea kind of solidified more and more because every time some weather condition happened, it made my journey on the dirt road easier or harder. If it rained, it would be a mud bog. If it froze, I could get over the mud. It mainly had to do with mud. So, needless to say, I made sure my game didn't have mud in it. But the landscapes and changing the landscapes was the main concept that I wanted to move forward as I went throughout this process. Now, this next step will take you from being a dreamer to an achiever. The next step, step number 2, is to write it down. Until you do this, you will be blocked from ever moving forward. You cannot skip the step of writing it down. It legitimizes and solidifies what you are processing in your brain. To borrow a phrase from one of my favorite authors, from one of my favorite books, Oathbringer from the Stormlight Archive by the great Brandon Sanderson, an author that you should probably stop this video right now. Don't stop it though, and go read his books because he's brilliant. Is Brandon Sanderson. He is the GOAT of all authors. Now, this has nothing to do with creating good board games. I just love him, and you should read his books. But to borrow that phrase that I spoke of, the most important step a man can take is the next one. And so we're gonna move on to the next step, because if you're not going from concept to writing it down to now this next step, which is make your pieces, you are going to stay stagnant. So make sure you always take the next step. Now, if you know, if you've read this book, comment down below, because I'm a huge Brandon Sanderson nerd, and I would love to connect with more nerds just like myself. I don't have COVID. Step number 3, make your pieces. Just like writing it down, making your pieces will help conceptualize and bring your idea to life. Plus, it makes for a pretty fun arts and craft night. If you have a board game group, suggest that might be one of your things. I know I would have never gotten to where I got with this game without the help from my friends and their willingness to indulge me making these things. Plus, it was pretty fun to make these arts and crafts, to make the pieces. A good tip for you as you're going is don't get too wrapped up in making the perfect piece. Many of these pieces are going to change. The decks that you're going to make are going to change. So a big thing I did was grab pieces from other games. If you've watched my playthrough of my board game, you know that I use magic cards. When I first started, I also used, I still use bottle caps. I used to use poker chips to help with the different colors, and I've slowly built and created better ones as the rules became more and more solid. Now, just because we passed previous rules doesn't mean that you should forget that they are important. Writing it down yet again is so important. As you're coming up with these rules, as it's solidifying more, you need to be writing it down. And this brings us to the next step in the process. Step number 4, convince your dog Breeze to stay within the frame of the camera. For me, it's almost impossible. No. I'm kidding. The real step number 4 is to play the heck out of your game. Grab your friends. If you're nerdy enough to have a board game group just like myself, grab your friends, convince them to play with it. If they're true nerds, they're gonna love the process of helping you create the game. I know I wouldn't have gotten anywhere without the supportive and great help from my friends. So all of you who are watching it, thank you so much. You know exactly who you are. Thank you. Now, yet again, be writing down the rules as you're coming up with them. I'm going to say that over and over again because it's so important. It's something that I wish I would have done more during the process. I kept it all in my brain, just thinking of it all, and only now that I'm on the last step did I start writing it down. Now, that last step is the step I'm currently on. Step number 5. Make your board game. Get it made. Make it presentable. Make it something that looks like a board game now. Now, to be honest, for me, this was the hardest step and is the hardest step. There's so many questions that I don't know the answers to, and I'm stumbling through it. And I'm going to be sharing those processes as I learn them. I will probably make a video solely devoted to this last step, getting your game made. So please continue watching the videos. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, guys, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, press the like button, leave a comment down below, and remember most of all that I love you guys, and we'll see you next video.